Now introducing Reality Checks. Get your daily dose of reality every morning and wake up with CNT Reality Checks. Get your reality in check today. www.cnt-sa.com. Good evening from the Diamond Resort and Casino in Mere Park. My name is Nigel Worcestershire and I welcome you all to the final CNT representative debates between the remaining 11 candidates. We would like to thank the Little Teapot and Merriweather Security for their services this evening. The Little Teapot has a booth set up on the upper deck of the resort and will be floating around with refreshments. CNT has created the format for this debate, which all the candidates have received and have agreed to follow. For those in our live audience, here is the debate format. There will be one question directed at each candidate. Each candidate will have roughly 90 seconds to respond to the question. Following the question, there will be 3 minutes of debate amongst the candidates, with the remaining 2 minutes of extra leeway for direct questions. The moderator, myself, Nigel Worcestershire, may interrupt any candidates if I believe the candidate is straying from the subject matter. The candidates may not interrupt one another. It is at my responsibility and discretion, not the candidates, to enforce the rule. A full list of rules for this debate currently are available for all guests to review online at www.cnt-sa.com/winter-election. The guests for tonight's debate have agreed to remain quiet and not to clap or boo for any candidate, so everyone can understand what the candidates are saying. Disruptive candidates and guests will be removed for the event at our discretion. The order for the responses in tonight's debate have been determined by the CNT Politpoll January 1st to the 3rd. The questions from this debate have not been shared with any of the candidates previously and have been made up by the CNT political team, in addition to various questions we fielded by the public. Since the start of the campaign period, we have seen several events from several campaigns. To highlight, we've had former candidates ring host an Ask Me Anything event. Travis Ray has hosted an Ask Me Anything event. Aori Prince has hosted a party in Vinewood. Incumbent Endeavor Jackson, Greystone, and John Woods have hosted a party at the Paradise Resort. Candidate Mon Nash has hosted a fight night event with Governor James Paxton. Jacob Wheeler has not hosted any events, however, has been spending time with constituents in the Southside Community Center. Hudson Welsh and Josh Zimmerman have not hosted any events around their campaigns. This is the last debate of the winter political season, and in attendance this evening, we have Aori Prince, Jordan Malone, incumbent Bex Lawson, Jacob Wheeler, and Travis Ray. We have yet to see incumbent Endeavor Jackson in any CNT debate to answer questions. Also, incumbent Mon Nash, who has been available, has yet to go to any debate, CNT or otherwise. This evening we are also missing Hudson Welsh, Alan Ozias, Josh Zimmerman, who have not attended this or any other debates. Everyone else not here has been seen at the previous CNT debate and can be viewed at www.cnt-sa.com. And with that being stated, we will be getting started this evening, ladies and gentlemen. The first question we have for the evening will be directed at incumbent Bex Lawson. Miss Lawson, recordings of someone who sounds like you, admitting to placing hits on people, continue to be circulated. What would you like to say to dispel such rumors and accusations?
First of all, thank you. I appreciate getting the platform to address this. The second thing I'd like to say is that I think this tape being circulated is unfortunate. As you may know, at the city-hosted debate, while trying to answer a question on the penal code, someone in the audience did play that tape. That tape, of course, is 6 months old, and was filmed by someone who has fled the state on immense drug charges. I think it's unfortunate because the people of Los Santos have very serious issues they need addressed. They need actual solutions. They need actual political debate, and not smears, not this circus. I think it's unfortunate the tape is being circulated. I also understand, of course, that in America we have our First Amendment rights, and people are able to make political speech or to disagree with candidates. I just wish that these people came forward about my policy. It's worth noting, these people haven't said anything about my time in Congress. They haven't said anything about my policy. They haven't said anything about my availability. It suggests that these things may be beyond reproach, if that's what they have to resort to.
Absolutely, Ms. Lawson. Thank you for response. We'll now move into 3 minutes of group discussion on the topic if any of the other candidates would like to weigh in.
Go ahead, Trev. No?
Absolutely, Mr. Wheeler, you have the floor.
I simply wanted to say that, candidate Lawson, or Representative Lawson, you pivoted to your policies and things of that nature. One of your policies was the fitting, I don't know why it was so comically named, the Ice Cream for Americans Act, where you wanted to raise UBI to, $70, correct, in total?
Yeah, I would have to double check that, but that sounds correct. Everyone's correct, yeah.
Can you sort of, since you want to talk about your policies, can you try to justify why you want to raise UBI so high and sort of ignore the licensed employees here and things and not incentivize people to
If I can stop you there, I will actually save this for the 2 minutes of direct questions.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, this is more related to a group discussion on the topic of the question stated to Ms. Lawson.
Appreciate it, Nigel.
Absolutely. If no one else has anything to add, I'll let Mr. Wheeler continue. All right, Mr. Ray, you have the floor.
Yeah. So, Bex, I am a little concerned about this, and while I think that the playing of the tape during the last debate was inappropriate, it's getting played for a reason, and to say that has nothing to do with your policy is everything. The accusations are pretty serious, and quite frankly, I don't think you've satisfied the court of public opinion in proving that you were not involved in the accusations that you said you were involved in on the tape. The fact that the man was busted on drug charges later doesn't deny the fact that you said what you said, and unless you want to go on the record as saying you were doing drugs when you said it, that's the only justification I could see in my mind for that kind of statement.
I certainly hope you stretched before the debates, Mr. Ray, if you're going to be making reaches like that. I'm not too interested in discussing the court of public opinion. As a potentially elected official, I would hope you know that in America we use the innocent until proven guilty system instead. I'm sorry, I'm
Mr. Ray, please. You have the floor, Ms. Lawson.
There was an investigation on this matter by the Major Crimes Department. They've heard the same tape. We had a very polite conversation, and since then, there has not even been charges, let alone a conviction. If anything, Mr. Ray, with a Weasel article suggesting that you're, funneling steel to gangs for gun manufacturing, I figure you might be a little more sympathetic to the idea of a misconstrued narrative being out about you.
But I've addressed that narrative as a misconstrued narrative. You still haven't addressed you still have yet to address the accusation that you were putting hits out on people. And you haven't even tried to say, you haven't even tried to say anything like, it was a misunderstanding in the conversation. And we have the tape of you saying that. So that's the concern.
I'm going to call time on the group discussion there, ladies and gentlemen, all right? And we will move into 2 minutes of direct questions from Ms. Lawson.
Same question as before, I guess. Representative
If you
Lawson.
could restate the question for us, Mr. Wheeler, absolutely.
So, Representative Lawson, as I was trying to say earlier, you pivoted to your policies versus actually addressing the tape, which I will agree has been investigated. It's over with. It's a simple smear campaign as far as I'm concerned. I'm more so concerned with your current policies, the bill, the Ice Cream for Americans Act, which seeks to raise UBI while completely ignoring any sort of a pay raise for employees of licensed businesses. So if you could just elaborate on that or explain your thought process behind that, please.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So first of all, I think it's important to know that UBI has been a system that has been tested extensively in certain European countries. We have research on UBI. We have research that suggests that people are not just lazy or looking for an excuse to not work. They actually very much benefit from support from their government, given both materially and not tied towards the right to work. You know, especially in cases of people with disabilities, people raising children. There are benefits where UBI very much kick in for marginalized populations, and it leads to a higher standard of living across the board. More importantly, I think we can agree that in certain aspects, the economy of Los Santos is out of control. I mean, housing in the state is ridiculous. I have a friend picked up a trailer for $30K, I believe, back during the spring, summer. Now that trailer would easily go for $100K. We have certain economies in the city that are based off of supply and demand. And we've definitely seen an inflation, right? We've seen an inflation in terms of things like party planning services, legal services. You know, I hire a lawyer on retainer. That goes from a cost of, $5K a month to $10K a month to $15K a month. My reasoning was inflation is a standard part of capitalism. You just need to obviously keep a tamper on it. And we need to adjust cost of living and certain realities of living in the state.
I will agree. Real estate is certainly a frustrating economy, to say the least. I would love to see some support dedicated to that economy as I work in it, and that better housing for everyone. I agree.
Generator right there in the corner of the parking lot. We're fixing the courthouse area.
So following on that question, on that your statement, Bex, are you aware of that every country or every community that's tried UBI has ended up repealing it?
That's not true.
I believe most countries do or are in the process of it. Now we do have social safety nets like welfare that cover a lot of what you described the UBIs for, but we're not here to discuss that. We're here to discuss the substantial raise you plan to give on UBI while not giving anything comparable to small business owners or small business employees. No one, and they're feeling a little left out, like you don't really care about the hard work that they do put in to make this economy work.
Well, I think that there's a couple of ways to respond to that. The first of which being with a raise to UBI, what I was hoping was that would be reflected in the wage as well. You would essentially see an increase the income across the board for both working San Andreans and for people who are reliant on UBI. So that is something where I was hoping that didn't go through. Now you're correct, there are economic realities that means it didn't go through. But I'm not interested in standing here on this stage saying, as your state representative, I'm only going to go for what's conservative, what's safe. I looked at San Andreans who were hurting. Like, people are struggling. They're falling into illegal activities. That's the only way to make money. Sometimes you can't even get set up with systems from DACO because of the demand, and it's very difficult. Therefore, right, with triage, you look for immediate solutions. That, of course, that by no means would end any support for small business or the economy, but it is one potential piece of the puzzle, and it's one I hope to revisit next Congress.
Absolutely, Miss Lawson. I appreciate the discussion here. I am going to have to call the topic there, all right? And we're going to be moving on this evening. All right, our next question this evening is going to be dedicated at candidate Jacob Wheeler. Mr. Wheeler, tell us about the community center that you are helping create. What is its goals, and where is the money coming from to fund that project?
Certainly. So the Southside Community Center, as it's currently being called, is community-driven project that was brought to me by residents of the South Side in conjunction with some other representative candidates and business owners down there. And the general concept is to provide a different outlet for the youth and the residents of the South Side. We hope to bring a number of volunteer staff that can teach a number of classes. The property has a wealth of recreational activities such as the basketball courts, the half pipe where people can do BMX biking, as well as the baseball field. And we want to just bring more resources and things down there for the community. People from the business community can come down and teach business classes. We can do a number of resources and things that are free services for the community. As far as the funding goes, I have personally offered to fund the Southside Community Center for the first 6 months of its operations. We had a meeting with DOCL, myself, and the people that are looking to run the Southside Community Center to find the best path to license the community center, whether or not we can seek to actually carve out a process for becoming a nonprofit, or just simply file the Southside Community Center as a building that exists and is open to the public and free for all to use. So
we appreciate your response this evening, Mr. Wheeler. We'll now move into 3 minutes of group discussion on the topic, if any of the other candidates would like to weigh in.
Yes, I guess I'll go first. I'm also working with the group that's forming the Southside Community Center. One of members who are setting it up is a very good, very old friend of mine, and I'm happy to see that he's decided to take it upon himself to help out the communities in Southside, help them get better lives, so that they can they're not forced into a life of crime and violence. I applaud the efforts of Mr. Wheeler and everyone who's working so hard to bring this as a reality. Which is why I think I would like to see some legislation about how we can do a nonprofit charity group that maybe won't infringe on DOCL's restriction of 2 business licenses per individual.
can you tell me, Mr. Ray, and I don't mean to sound crass when I ask this or confrontational, but really, what capacity have you been assisting in other than showing up to events that other people have helped plan and coordinate? You've not been present at any of the meetings with the DOCL regarding the licensing and the future of the Southside Community Center. And the only time I've seen you down there was when you crashed your van into some parked cars today at our event.
I've been down there for the past 3 days. I've been talking with individuals down there who've been working it out, and I've pledged a sizable donation I don't wish to discuss here at this time.
Mr. Wheeler, if I may, this community center certainly sounds like a worthy venture, but you described yourself as a philanthropist at the other debate, and I think voters might be wondering, is this an act of kindness, or it does seem very tactically placed to the election? Do you have a history of philanthropy otherwise you might be able to share?
Prior to registering as a state representative candidate, I had a Christmas for the Community initiative when I found out that the Department of Public Works was charging business owners anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 for their Christmas decorations for a Christmas tree to be placed at their business. I was quite frankly blindsided. So any business owner that reached out to me that sought out Public Works and Christmas decorations, I paid for. I've also invested in a number of small businesses and startups that have tried to get off their feet here. I've issued out a number of loans with no interest and tried to provide in my capacity as of owning a consulting company to also provide philanthropy. So yes, I do have a history of these sort of activities.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question.
All right, we can now move into 2 minutes of direct questions for candidate Wheeler. If anyone has them, they can state them now.
I have a question.
Sure thing, Mr. Malone, you have the floor.
Right, Jacob, first off, I do commend you for bringing up the idea. That's actually a really good idea in regards towards lowering the crime in Southside. My only question I do have for you, sir, you said that you would fund the first 6 months. Have you thought of a plan what would happen after those 6 months, or is that something that you would talk about in the near future?
So it's more so just from a let's call it a shrewd business perspective. I'd like to fund them for the first 6 months to enable them to not have to worry about their finances. I'd like to reevaluate in 6 months and see where the Southside Community Center has taken itself. I'm more than willing and prepared to fund it further. I've actually, if the building is able, something I'd like to pursue with the government is if the building is able to be donated in perpetuity, and if we could just give a public designation for the property so that it is simply known that it is open to the public and not owned by anyone, that's something I'd be interested in funding. But it really depends on the people that want to put their time in. I think the Southside Community Center really is going to be a place that people that not only volunteer and spend their time there, but also utilize their services. It's going to be you get into it what you get out of it what you put into it. So if they can take this and run with it in 6 months, I'm more than willing to continue to provide funding.
Absolutely. Just wanted to clarify with that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for weighing in, candidates. I'm sorry, I'm gonna call the topic there. All right, we're gonna be moving on for the next question of the evening. Our next question is going to be directed at candidate Jordan Malone. Mr. Malone, how do you believe you can best enact your oversight role as a member of the legislative to give oversight of the executive branch if put into office?
Would you mind rephrasing the question? I'm just a little bit confused on what you mean by that. My apologies.
All right, how about like this, mate? If elected, how would you give oversight to the executive branch?
I mean, it all depends. I mean, we want to work with each other. Obviously, as state representatives, we all want to work together just to make sure we get the common goal of helping out the community. If elected, just making sure that everything goes right. Basically having like community meetings, not so much like with everyone involved, including state reps, but just as in like just giving the public updates and such. But obviously having meetings between all the state reps included, and just so on and so forth, and making sure that everything goes smoothly, and hopefully that everything does go well. If things don't go right, then does happen in politics. But if elected, try and just work with my fellow representatives and making sure that the community is well assured that their public safety and such is all good.
All right, Mr. Malone, thank you for your response. You can now move into a group discussion if anybody else would like to weigh in on the topic.
So I think one of the issues that hampers the legislature with oversight is the Constitution gives the legislature very weak, if any, oversight authority on the executive and the judiciary, for that matter. I think it needs to be amended so that the executive can hold, or not the executive, excuse me, the legislature can hold committees to look into the various executive branches and make sure that the taxpayer dollar is going to proper use. If the legislature had that ability during the sprung sponsorship of Public Works, I think that would have been solved rather quickly. And that's a glaring failure of the current current balance of power between our three branches of government.
If I may, Travis, did you just imply that it's a failing of the government that Public Works had to get a sponsorship from Sprung to fund themselves when Public Works is known to not really work with the government and kind of be their own thing?
No, I think it's a failing that the government could not investigate and push back against it as hard as it did. The other night at the gubernatorial debate, Paxton was getting the lion's share of the blame for not letting that happen. But if the legislature could have stepped in and said, "Oh, hold on, we have power of the purse. Where are you spending all this money? What's going on?" It would have been could have been handled a lot differently.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Can we also I'd like to circle back to candidate Malone's answer regarding the community and setting up committees and things like that. Not once did you even mention the executive branch in your answer. I don't know if you truly understood the question or how you plan on involving the community in oversight of the executive as your power of state legislator, but I would love some clarification on that.
Just a little bit unsure on the answer per se, because I didn't really understand the question as well. But
The question as stated was, if elected, how would you give oversight to the executive branch, which would be the governor's office? Candidate Malone.
That one I'm just not quite sure on, if I'm being honest. It's just a difficult question for me to answer at this time.
All right, Mr. Malone. We can now move into 2 minutes of direct questions for Candidate Malone, if anyone has any.
Mr. Malone, do you not find it a little concerning that you know so little about how proper government is set up and run, especially given that this isn't like advanced college level poli-sci course? You learned this stuff in grade school. You know, you have the 3 branches of government. They each have their individual powers over the other, and they each keep each other in check. I'm sure you've seen on CNN or other news stations at least one congressional committee grilling someone in the news of late. And you know, it should be a basic understanding of anyone who's going to be running for office how that office is going to work. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Candidate Wheeler, did you have something to say?
No, I'm okay. I think my question's said enough.
All right. What do you need the other candidates like a direct question in Mr. Malone? All right, so moving on for the evening, our next question is going to be directed at candidate Travis Ray. Mr. Ray, in your platform ideas you provided to CNT, you mentioned an employee pay supplement program. Can you elaborate on this program and how you would implement it if in office?
So I believe that program is already implemented. That's when employees of small businesses or small business is given, I believe it's additional funds so that they can pay the employee. I think it's all told out. Most employees of small businesses in this state receive about $80 from that, and then if the business is doing well, they can supplement that income by adding their profits into the account. What I'd like to see is that fund increased to my goal would be about a total of $100 in pay. So that's what I meant by that. It might be under some other terminology, but that was my understanding of how that system works.
Can you elaborate on how you would implement the higher pay system?
So it would be, we basically have to look at how can we provide more money from the bill, and a lot of what I would look at is where is additional revenue capture that we're not yet exploiting in this city. So could be how much it could be, and quite frankly, you know, the state does not publish where it gets its revenue from. So we have to have that conversation, and that should be public information. How much of the budget is from DACO? How much is from SAFA? How much comes from the casino, from car sales, from any taxes on private property? And we just don't know at this time. So the first part of that would have to be exploring how all this money comes into state. And then following that, I'd like to see, are we not capturing revenue from certain areas? And if so, what can we do to capture it? And hopefully we could generate the revenue enough that the income we don't need to slash the budgets of other government programs.
But thank you for a response this evening, Mr. Ray. We'll now move into a group discussion on the topic if the other candidates would like to weigh in.
Mr. Ray, have you ever owned a business?
I have, in fact, yes.
What business was that?
KNDR. It was going to be a radio station.
Was going to be, so it never actually came to fruition. Did it employ anyone in its time?
Yeah, there were some miscommunications with my business partner and we had falling outs after that. So, but yeah, we did work on a budget for that. Yes.
So you're aware that right now, at present, the business owners in the city do not have any access to their business accounts. Their money that they're supplemented by comes from what I would love to have Commissioner Zimmer or former Commissioner Zimmer answer this, but it's surmised by the entire budget that DOCL takes in from business licenses, business fees, and premise taxes. We have no control over that. We cannot augment or bonus or change the pay of our employees at all. So your plan would increase their pay exponentially, while just hoping that the money's going to continue to be there without any sort of you need to do a full budget audit of DOCL and see how much money is being brought in before you can simply choose a rate out of thin air and say, we're going to pay these employees now $100, which is astronomical. It's more than the Ice Cream for Americans Act, which I thought was a terrible idea.
Well,
it's just a lot of money, Mr. Ray, out of thin air that you haven't really actually explained in the question where you're going to get it from and how you're going to justify it.
Right, because I think your idea of auditing DOCL doesn't go far enough. We need a full audit on every branch of the government. We don't know where all the money is going to, quite frankly. No one's telling us what the budget is. How much does policing cost in this state versus DOCL versus the hospital? No one tells. We don't have that information. And it was my understanding, based on literature at the time, that you did have access to those accounts. So our business model wasn't set up to work off of the supplemental income. In fact, at the time we were setting up, it wasn't available.
So you're making a plan and proposal based on out-of-date information, suggesting that we raise it to 100 once again without looking into the numbers first. You've chosen to pick a rate and just make a suggestion without doing any research.
How much has the pay for government employees been increased, and how many times has it been increased? And we've already had a UBI increase from $30 to $40. I believe you recall that one. That was a while back. So it's not like pay increases aren't done in this state. They're done all the time. It's just the small business never gets consideration in those increases.
I'm not questioning the context of the pay increase. In fact, it's one of the things that I'm running on. But your notion, you've decided to announce it to $100. Your plan is I'd like to see it at 100 and then just to do the audit after the fact and hope that the money's still there.
The audit would happen first. My goal is,
if the audit happens first, then your $100 rate may be inaccurate based on the context of that audit. The audit would dictate your raise.
My goal would be to figure out how we can raise the money for that $100 pay. It's only a $20 increase at the end of the day.
Which could be a lot in tax increases or license increases.
It could
anyway.
be, but I
mind the interruptions moving forward, gentlemen, and I am actually going to call the group discussion now. All right, I've run a little bit over, but it was productive. So we will now move into 2 minutes of direct questions for candidate Ray, if anyone has them, though.
Yes, Mr. Ray. As I'm sure you're aware, being part of the legislature requires a lot of communication with other departments, including occasional conflicts between priorities and departments. Seeing how you have a history of being confrontational with figures like Maggie Martindale on Twitter, how does the public know you'll be able to conduct yourself in a way befitting a government employee when you disagree with others?
Because the public knows how I conduct myself in anything. I always approach every conversation, or at least I try to, in a respectful tone. Some days I get a little hangry, but I don't go on the attack to start the conversation. I try to have that conversation in a peaceful manner. Where that conversation leads is sometimes it doesn't go in the best of directions. I'm willing to work with government and with all members of government, and I know some of them don't. I know some of them are, and I have had contentious relationships. But I'm going to be there and try and bury the hatchet and offer the olive branch. How we move forward is entirely up to them, and whether they are willing to take up that olive branch.
So, just to clarify, first of all, Mr. Ray, you're blaming the Twitter tirade you had against a public official, Maggie Martindale, as being hangry?
No, that was her responding to a question I posed to the police through a 911 system.
Right, but you did use the term that you sometimes get hangry. So are we to expect that at a state representative meeting we may be at the whims of your stomach? Should we make sure there's snacks available?
And if I may, Mr. Ray, just following up on that point, I mean, even your answer, you say you're going to have to see how they respond. I mean, like, how do we know that you will be able to conduct yourself accordingly? You're saying, I respond how people treat me. Are you capable of being an adult and having these conversations even when things become hostile or have conflict?
Yes, I am.
All right, and we appreciate your responses and the other candidates weighing in. We will now move on to the last question of the first round, which will be directed at Kaori Prince. Candidate Prince, your platform promotes an expansion of the government by creating mayoral regions for cities like Paleto, Sandy Shores, and the city of Los Santos. How do you plan to convince those that say the government is already too large?
Thank you for the question, Nigel. My plan of attack there would be just going in and currently, unfortunately, in my current position, I genuinely do not know how much stress is put on the state representative and the governor's office. Currently, those looking in are the only two places in the government that actually have any say in what laws are made and passed, etc. The way I would go about that is saying, well, the state representatives have a lot on their plate. Not only are they here talking to people, figuring out what the problems are to make the laws on, they're also the ones writing the bills and also sending it to the governor's office, who signs off and passes the bill into law. So I would go, putting another cog in this machine would make it more complex, yes, but it would relieve the stress on the entire system. I'm not quite sure where this
Everybody needs to get down right now.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody.
Don't get caught out in that stormy weather, feller. Get yourself a CNT umbrella. You know what's better than being wetter? Having a CNT umbrella. Get on down to CNT and get yourself one today. www.cnt-sa.com. Now introducing Reality Checks. Get your daily dose of reality every morning and wake up with CNT Reality Checks. Get your reality in check today. www.cnt-sa.com.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was the worst thing. Thank you for acknowledging that. Any self-respect consumer does. Although there's a new neo-Tumblr movement that's really fascinating. And also, like, you're seeing a lot of retro movements, like with bug spots and GeoCities and stuff. It's kind of like a Web 2.0 retroism. Super fascinating stuff.
Are they? Oh,
Anybody understand what the fuck that person just said?
No, I think Tom sold out. Tom fucking won. He's just out there drinking martinis somewhere.
All right, good news. The current threat decided to do just a drive-by, so they're getting chased by the police. We should be good to continue.
Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, Pardon the interruption there, and we'll be getting back underway.
Good to go.
Thank you, Mr. Ramses.
Would you like me to start all from the beginning, Nigel, or just do you want where I left off?
And if you could start from the beginning, if you don't, I do
Of course.
apologise. All right,
No,
would you
you're
like
quite
me to
all right.
restate your question?
For the sake of the cameras, go ahead.
Absolutely. Candidate Prince, your platform promotes an expansion of the government by creating mayoral regions for cities like Paleto Bay, Sandy Shores, and the city of Los Santos. How do you plan to convince those that say the government is already too large?
The plan that I would go about is saying how the current stresses on the government is what causes it to be in a place where it takes a while to write bills, pass laws. It's something that definitely needs to go through immediately. Currently, from an outsider looking in, at least, state reps have a large amount of things to do on their plate. They go to people, they talk to people, figure out what they would like to see change. They write bills, they send to the governor's office, and the governor looks at them, signs it into law. So my hope would be that I would be able to go to the people that I would need to convince and be like, listen, while putting another cog in the machine of the government would make it larger, it would relieve the stress on state reps and make it easier to do their jobs. The mayoral office that I have is a way for people to be heard even better than how they already are. I believe that having people who have more of a direct line to us, even though everyone, I believe, can call state reps in the government app on their phones, I would have a more direct line because to talk to state reps, to if we would hold meetings with the mayors, get together once a month or twice a month, go over, what the people want to see changed. And then we go and we write bills and pass them into law through the governor. That would be my hope. That would be enough for convincing them. That's all I have to say on the matter.
Well, we appreciate your response this evening. We'll now move into 3 minutes of group discussion if the other candidates would like to weigh in on the topic.
Yes, I have a question. I think it's an interesting idea and definitely has a lot of potential. But I'm wondering if you're concerned it might increase tribalism between neighborhoods, conflicts between Vinewood or Mirror Park, the South Side, or other neighborhoods. Do you worry that it might fracture the populace, or do you think the civic benefits would outweigh that risk?
It is a good question and something to think of. However, I believe that the thoughts of it causing more tribalism to emerge are not anything that I would look at being a big issue or even an issue at all. Seeing how the districts, the entirety of Los Santos and Chumash are in what would be the Los Santos district, I don't believe that any tribalism, what there already is in the city, would emerge through the office being established, or any tribalism between the three districts arising. Because the entire point is for those districts to talk to their mayoral offices and bring up concerns. And then the mayors would bring those to us. And if there would be something that they would bring up that would only favor one, say they bring up a concern where they would like something to be passed to give Paleto just more power in general, political power, economic power, that would be on us to say, well, that just doesn't sound like it's a good idea. So we can look into ways to achieve something like they want, but nothing that would be that direct in the in writing a bill. So I do not believe that tribalism would be an issue.
Thank you for your answer.
I have less of a question, more so a general just perspective on the fact that currently our government process, as you said, candidate Prince, you feel is too slow. The process of writing bills, there's too much on the plate of our state representatives. So the solution is to add an additional, as you say, cog in the machine of government, which is going to be another person that needs to then translate the message of the people, of its constituents, back to the state representatives. I think it would be much more beneficial for our city to immediately look to repair the lines of communication between citizens and state reps. We don't need another government position. We don't need another 3 layers of telephone in the path from state reps to the citizens. We can do that directly now with the resources we have and improve that better. Mayor has no existence in our government. We would have to rewrite the path of our Constitution. We'd have to reanalyze the exact process of how our government works before we could even get down to working with the mayor. The past 2 Congresses have been held back by an impeachment and inaction from previous candidates, such as Representative Keller, who just didn't do anything from what I could tell. We need to not worry about adding to government. We need to improve the current government system as we have now and just get a better voice and path for the citizens to feel heard. Show up to the town hall when a bill is written and proposed on the forum, on the government website. You see it. You need to write into your state reps, not your mayor, who then has his own agenda and will translate for his people.
So I see some.
I
some.
apologise, Mr. Ray. I will be concluding the group discussion there, but I will allow a final word from candidate Prince.
On your concerns about everything and adding another cog in the machine and it causing and more issues in repairing the current government, I agree. But however, I feel like some of your concerns that you brought up are the effects of 2 people who were in the past 2 Congresses. That being, why can I not remember his name? The member of the state
Mr.
rep who was
Lee.
impeached. Thank you.
Or
He
sorry,
was-
Benning, sorry.
Yeah, William Benning was impeached, and Cash Keller just was was of inaction and didn't do anything and just sat in his seat. I feel like that's a failure upon them in their seats and not a failure of the department as whole, because the department can only work as well as the sum of its parts. While it would be complex and probably require a rewriting of some parts of the government, it makes no sense to me why these places in our state have no mayoral office. Any other city or state has a mayoral office in place to do what most of our state reps do. While that's perfectly fine that we do not have a mayoral office, it would make more sense in my head in order to give people that ability and make it seem like they are more of the candidate of the people than the state reps, because more or less state reps are just for writing laws. Yes, we talk to people and we hear people, and I fully intend to plan to do that if I am elected and go down and talk to people. I love talking to people. However, it is up to the people to speak up. You would like them to go to the town halls and speak up, but that's currently up to the people. And if they're not the ones that are doing it, I cannot do anything in order to make them do that. I can encourage them, but I can't force them to go to the town halls and listen and appeal or give their thoughts on a bill. That's completely up to the populace.
Thank you for your response. Before we move into 2 minutes of direct questions for candidate Prince, if anyone has them, I would like to take this time to let everyone in attendance and the candidates at their podiums know that Merriweather Security has offered helicopter evac for anyone that would like it at this time. If they're feeling unsafe to attend the rest of the event, you can now take the time to be evacuated out via helicopter by Merriweather Security. And that falls for the candidates and anyone in attendance. So we will now take a moment. If anyone would like to make that decision, you may exit now with Merriweather Security.
Mr. Cole, come on out. Such a good job. You feel, Mr. Cole?
You know, it's a lot different from the normal, but...
Today we'll be acting as Edward Boredom, and he'll be today's show host.
So Oliver, it's your turn. Oh, what a transformation. Truly iconic.
And for today, Oliver will be acting as Javier Hola.
This is really quite tight. What do you think about
So I enjoy it being tight because I can relate to that myself as a tight woman. So a tight race is very good. That means that they're very healthy and that both candidates are very well endowed.
Howdy, my name is Cliff. You know, it's okay to get lost sometimes. You never know what you'll see. But you know what's not okay to lose? Money on your business. Now I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. Advertising helps drive up your profits. CNT is offering ad space right now on their website. With new articles, stories, and shows come out a couple times a week, you'll never miss out on new customers seeing your ad. And with their handy tools and guides, I was able to find my way. Call a CNT employee today.
We were currently having minutes of direct questions for candidate Prince. I'm not sure where he left off on, but I believe somebody was currently stating a question.
As Travis asked the question, I was giving the answer.
Absolutely.
Just for the cameras, my question was, I was under the impression you were trying to imply that Chumash was part of Los Santos City.
No, I know that Chumash is not a director of the district that is Los Santos, but for simplification of my idea, and because it was the closest district geographically, I incorporated the Chumash area into the Los Santos district, which the mayor would be under. However, I do not know. I know for a fact that Chumash and Los Santos are separate. However, because Chumash is largely just residential and less business, it was, like I said, it was just easier to incorporate in Los Santos. However, if this bill was looked into and being passed, and Chumash would want their own district, it is more than, or the bill is more than capable of having 4 districts. It's no problem. However, just for simplification, that's why.
Okay, so would a better solution be to have reps assigned to different communities as part of who they're representing, so that people can have someone they know they can directly talk to?
That is a good idea, and it is a much simplified version of the idea I had in the main role of the mayor's office that I would like to enact. However, I'm not. Yeah, it's a good idea. I can't really say much about that.
Can I ask? You stated earlier that right now you feel as though creating a better path of communication wouldn't work because the people just aren't utilizing it currently. So why would creating another government role and adding to the government budget and paying a mayor suddenly create, the drive to communicate with the government amongst the representatives? If the people still aren't going to their mayors and actually talking to them about the issues, then it's just a mayor lobbying for self-interest and more avenues for corruption and just a bigger government that we don't need. We can just improve our current state reps' communication.
Well, Jacob, while that is all true, you have to look in the fact that it's not on the state reps' shoulders in order to lobby the people in order to talk to them. Like I said earlier, every state representative's number who's clocked into their office is on their phone. Whether that's publicly wide information or not, it is a way that they can talk. So again, it falls on the shoulders of the populace not taking action to voice themselves, and I believe that the mayor's office would allow them to have somebody more on their level, because the mayor's office is, in my head, it would be that, oh hey, my friend is running for mayor and he's going to help us get everything more done, instead of the state reps. State reps by itself sounds like a higher, more prestige position than just mayor, so maybe people feel intimidated by the fact that they don't feel like they could talk to state reps because they feel like we're so high up, and having a mayor in a mayoral office will give the populace more credence to be like, oh well, he's just a mayor. It's not as intimidating as state rep or the governor. You understand what my thought process is there?
So who would vote for the mayor? How would the mayor be elected to? Or we would only have then regional votes? You would have the Paleto residents come together and vote their friend into mayor, and what is the process for electing a mayor?
Correct.
Why? Go ahead.
It would be that the people would run for mayorship of a district, and then the people would vote on it, similar to how state reps are elected. Yes.
It's further inflating the election and campaigning. Go ahead, Travis.
So would Southside be able to vote for Paleto's mayor then? Because right now we don't limit which candidates you can vote for by region you live in.
There would have to be a sense of where the people mostly locate their time, and it would also be more of an honor thing, given how the state currently accepts votes.
So you want to create 3 mayor positions based on honor, voted based on honor amongst the people.
Everything in the state is based on honor, Mr. Wheeler. I don't understand what your question is.
Not currently, no. We have a voting system that allows every citizen to vote for 5 candidates once, and it doesn't matter that they're not voting for a mayor who doesn't even represent an area that they live in. You simply now suggest that it's okay, and we're going to just leave the entire populace of the state to just vote in honor of the mayor. So we, as Travis pointed out, we could have an entire area completely flood the votes and then put a mayor in their pocket in a district they don't even live in. You're creating you're creating a government position with virtually no
I'm giving,
oversight or
I'm
regulation.
giving the ability for an idea, and it's what you're saying is completely preposterous. It's not like somebody from Los Santos would go and try and get somebody to be a mayor in Paleto. Like, I think that you're looking at this like, oh, well, people are going to abuse this office because you just think that maybe corruption is more widespread than it actually is.
No, you're just creating an environment for it with absolutely no oversight and no voting laws around the process of voting for mayor.
The voting laws would be the voting laws that are already currently in state. I don't control how votes are accepted. That's above my head.
If I may, Ms. Prince, Mr. Wheeler, I think part of the issue is we don't have a system for sort of fixed ownership. There's no census even to track that. So we're essentially discussing a system that requires a base infrastructure that does not exist. Now, we could build those systems on an attempt to get there, but then you have a whole roadmap and it becomes, well, is this worth it? And I feel like that's sort of the delicate dance of government.
Yes,
I appreciate everyone weighing in this evening on that topic. We've gone quite a bit over here, so I am going to call the discussion there. A very nice discussion from all candidates here. I'm going to be moving around to the second round of questioning now. Back to State Representative Incumbent Bex Lawson. Ms. Lawson, as we've reported the potential corruption of the judiciary recently, how have you, as your current role, tried to stop the potential corruption within the judiciary?
That's a good question, Nigel. It's a tough one, too. What I can tell you is that the judiciary has felt very unstable from the perspective of the legislature. Right, we have a problem where, as the legislature, we owe the people trial. We owe the people a legal system, a functioning legal system, right? And as such, we have had to work with a sort of rotating chairs. We have often had a problem where we get someone in, and then there is an issue, and we have to quickly rotate them out. That is becoming quickly a systemic problem because you're not getting veterans in these departments. You're not getting people a collected wisdom, a collected sense of experience, and that obviously becomes the cycle. So the problem, I believe, is much larger than any one candidate any one person or any one case of corruption. What you have is a systemic problem, something that has continued relatively unchecked. Now, what I have done with my role is I have pushed for anti-corruption in general. When it comes to cases like the impeachment of William Benning, that was me sort of working with the rest of the legislature to uphold the standard of behavior. In order to do that for the judiciary, it's obviously more difficult, as it's not my department. I don't have the same access or oversight, but my number one priority would be establishing a sense of stability.
Absolutely. We appreciate your response this evening, Incumbent Lawson. If any of the other candidates would like to weigh in, we now have 3 minutes of group discussion on the topic.
So I think one of the solutions to this is that we need to better vet the candidates that are nominated for judge. One of my big complaints is that most of the judges on the bench right now are have had their careers completely in service to the government. They've never defended someone in court. They've never brought a suit against the state. And, you know, there's maybe 2 judges who have done that in our entire judiciary. Now, that's something that needs to be considered is what was their career up to this? We've had judges in this state who've never been a litigant in a case or part of a litigation at all other than to be the judge. And they've got and I think it's a valuable experience that you have that litigation experience, so you know what arguments the lawyers are making in front of you, and you can follow the lawyer's thought process.
That's an entirely fair point. Thank you.
Would any of the other candidates like to weigh in on the topic? We'll now move into 2 minutes of direct questions for Incumbent Bex Lawson, if any of the candidates have them. All right, so moving on to the next question of the evening will be directed at candidate Jacob Wheeler. Mr. Wheeler, as a person who's been a real estate broker, what would you do to solve the housing crisis we currently face?
Thank you for the question. I'd appreciate the chance to elaborate on the real estate issues in our state here. I think first and foremost, one thing I have seen that has been completely neglected in real estate is the lack of infrastructure. Right now, with automobile payments as well as your Department of Commerce and Labor business taxes, there's an automated billing system. We currently do not have any billing infrastructure behind our real estate industry to support that and to better enable our real estate agents to do a better job at recycling homes and making sure that the people that have purchased real estate properties maintain their payments and are getting through the eviction process if needed. It can be very, very difficult to, on a human level, to track down people and collect those payments and ensure that the process is being upheld. I think that technologically it's the biggest challenge that we face as real estate agents currently. At present, I think we've sold over 500 properties, and we are currently going to be looking at, evaluating that and bringing more properties to the available market, and I think that it would just be a much more expedited process with better infrastructure and support.
Thank you for your response, candidate Wheeler. We'll now move into 3 minutes of group discussion on the topic, if any of the candidates would like to weigh in.
So I think one of the big problems as well is the state doesn't have a ready access of who's living where, and this was addressed in earlier in the mayoral discussion of the mayoral candidates. But I think knowing where people are living is vitally important. For example, let's say the police want to serve a search warrant against someone's house, and they have to put in a subpoena to the real estate company to get who lives where, and that can be a very difficult process. Whereas if that was recorded on their information, like a car plate is recorded, you can have the cops able to find out, and that's not something that is a violation of privacy, of a terrible violation of privacy. Most states have as public record everyone's property listings and where people live. You can go find on an internet search where anyone lives in any other state practically. So I think we need to get that kind of information into a government department so that it can be tracked and it can be called upon by both the government and individuals as needed when the time arises. Certainly, we don't want to be giving out anyone's home situation just willy-nilly and where they live, but there are times where we need to know, we as people need to know where somebody lives.
Would any of the other candidates like to weigh into the group discussion?
Jacob, I have a quick question. How would you feel about there being a way for someone owning a property, whether it not be through a real estate agency or through DOCL? Currently, the only ways to legally own a property is through purchasing it through a real estate agency or acquiring it through a business with DOCL. Do you feel like that should be the only way that a person should legally be able to acquire private property, or do you think that there should be more opening to that?
It's a tough line to dance, because if you just allow people to go and obtain property with no justifiable reason, if they simply want to just own it because they like the way it looks, that could create conflict of interest, or not conflict of interest, but a situation where that property may have a beneficial commercial use. Should a business looking to be operated out of there and they're unable to simply because someone likes the way a building looks, or just wants it and owns it and has the means to prevent someone. I think that there could be different ways or that to acquire property from DOCL. I think that might be an avenue to be looked at, but I do agree with the fact that our current businesses need to justify the fact that they own the business and continue to operate out of it to exist there and to continue to maintain that property license. I think that should be a requirement of anything.
Thank you.
Right, and with that direct question from candidate Prince, I moved us into the 2 minutes of direct questions. So if any of the other candidates have a direct question for Mr. Wheeler, you can state them now.
Mr. Wheeler, currently real estate is in a pretty dire state for many San Andreans. Finding a home is obviously very difficult. What can you do to help? Like, in your role, what would you think you could do in legislature to meaningfully improve the housing market?
Exactly through legislature, how we can improve the housing market is a tough answer, because it's a slippery slope of giving the legislature powers over people's private property. It's a weird quagmire of how much should we let the legislation say. I think that immediately seeing there could be some sort of, if necessary, government funding directed towards ensuring that real estate agents are available, possibly the way DOCL agents are. Right at present, our phone numbers are not listed. It is on the real estate agents to an ad on Twitter or on the yellow pages to let them know that we are around. Right now, also the citizens aren't fully aware that real estate properties listed on Weasel News in the real estate section. So we have to communicate that to people who do not know. And a lot of citizens who just moved here don't even know of Weasel News' existence, so it's hard for them to get access to the proper information. Dynasty Realty also, we have our own website with our own listings and all of our contact information. My number is personally on probably 500 billboards and properties across the city. It's people certainly have no problem finding my number, but if the other agents and such aren't listed or have that access to better being able to be listed, it's tough. So that's something I would hope to look at. And if I may also answer something that candidate Ray brought up regarding the accessibility of information, I think it's asinine to suggest that anyone's public address should be just there and open market for anyone to obtain. If anyone has a personal grudge or matter wants to obtain someone's address for any sort of nefarious reason. But also, I've personally worked with a number of law enforcement officers on search and seizures where they've needed the address and had the proper documentation. It's a pretty easy process. If they come to us with signed paperwork, it takes me all of 2 minutes right now to look at an address. I can get you that information very quickly. So there's no need to make that information publicly obtainable, in my opinion.
I appreciate your responses this evening. We'll now move on to the next round of questioning for candidate Jordan Malone. Mr. Malone, there have been several gubernatorial candidates who have suggested the appointment of Lieutenant Governor McKenzie is unconstitutional. Do you believe the appointment of this is unconstitutional, and why?
I do not believe it's unconstitutional simply because Governor James Paxton was the one that made this decision, and it was made justified, not so much as like a problem per se, but it was made just for the simple right that she was appointed, and that's all there is to it, really.
So as Governor Paxton appointed her, it sees fit?
Yeah, if she fit the right criteria, and if he felt that that was the right decision, then I don't see why it was unconstitutional at that time.
Right, Mr. Malone, thank you for your response. We'll now move into 3 minutes of group discussion on the topic if the other candidates would like to weigh in on the matter.
If I may, I think part of the process of government is always finding the balance between following the strictest letter of the law, serving the people. When it comes to the appointment of Lieutenant Governor McKenzie, this was sort of a situation where the previous Lieutenant Governor had removed himself very suddenly, and we had no legal framework for a successor, which is a problem. It forces us to really determine, do we make sure we have the perfect T's crossed, I's dotted legal framework, which could take weeks, or do we just do the best possible, right? And I think part of project management as a whole, not just politics, is that the perfect is the enemy of the good. There are times where you have to understand, yes, you appoint someone around, while we wait for a solution, because that position does need to be filled. For me, I think it's always going to be about serving the people, and I believe that Ms. McKenzie has abundantly shown that she has been working in the services of the public since appointed.
So I'd just like to weigh in and say, in the history of our nation, this issue has come up many a times, and it wasn't until Gerald Ford that you actually you actually had a system that could produce a vice president if there was a vacancy in office between the election. In fact, the first president to ascend from the office of vice presidency, when that occurred, the whole nation had a big fight. Over: do we call this guy the president, the acting president, or the vice president still? And it was settled when he finally stepped into office and said, "I'm the president," and that's how it's been ever since. There was no change to that. But at the same time, that is something different than leaving a gap of how do we get a lieutenant governor into office without in this situation. And in fact, even now, we still don't have a way to designate a line of succession if both if the governor and the lieutenant governor are incapacitated in a similar situation. So there's definitely room for improvement on this, and we should probably work on it now before it becomes a problem.
Right, and thank you for your brief history lesson there, Mr. Ray, and weighing in on the topic. And we'll now move into 2 minutes of direct questions, if any of the candidates have them, for Mr. Malone.
I mean, with all due respect, Mr. Malone, I think you've demonstrated a rudimentary knowledge of the American political system. I was not bar certified when I first took office. I was in a very similar position. What strengths do you bring to the office that can overcome this level of sort of having to play catch up on certain fundamentals of the position?
I mean, just reading over things like reading over the bills and also studying as well, making sure that you know the common knowledge. Along with that, making sure that you understand like what's wrong and what's right. Just the basics behind it is all.
So you're just gonna learn on the job?
Not necessarily.
Not what Bex did.
Please.
Essentially, we all learn at some point, and it's being a state rep. You learn as you go. You learn what your rights and what's your, not right and wrongs, but you learn from your mistakes and move on.
But you should at least approach the office that you're running for with some rudimentary understanding of the, the branches of government, such as what exactly, in fact, is the executive and how you can actually bring oversight to that department.
Yes, I understand.
I certainly hope.
All right, if no one has any other direct questions for Mr. Malone, we'll be moving on. The next question for the evening will be directed at candidate Travis Ray. Mr. Ray, with the violence raging in the city, gang wars, violence against political candidates, etc., how do you plan on curbing crime throughout San Andreas as a whole?
That's a good question, and it's a multifaceted one with a large and multifaceted answer. Then, we have over 4,000 years of human history, and no one solved crime yet. So, I would say that a good way to some ways that will help bring the crime rate down are looking into solutions that involve alternatives to incarceration, so people aren't sentenced for small petty crimes to spend months in jail and come out bitter and resentful and making connections to organized crimes inside prison. You can also have situations where you work with felons to try and help them better their lives through groups organized through DHS and the community, such as the Southside Community Center, to help them find better ways to earn a living that don't involve violence and corruption. At the end of the day, you're gonna need to have a system that can help tailor itself a little to each individual who passes through it. There's no one-size-fit-all cure for crime in this state, and there never will be. But that's not to say we can't work at some solutions that can really change the lives of many people who find themselves desperate enough to go breaking the law.
We appreciate your response this evening, Candidate Ray. We'll now have 3 minutes of group discussion on the topic if the other candidates would like to weigh in.
In our previous... Go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, please. By all means, I insist.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ray, what are some alternatives that you would like to see put in place over imprisonment for people committing petty crimes, as you said?
So I'd like to see a petty crime, for especially petty crime, I'd like to see probation, where we're not necessarily sending them to prison, but we are putting some restrictions on what they're able to do, and making sure that they follow up with those restrictions and requirements, such as doing community service, or going to seeking out a job at a small business, and employ Department of Corrections officials who will follow up with that as probation and parole officers. Additionally, we can offer time. We can offer some time off the jail sentence if you follow through with a parole period as well. So we don't have to have them in jail for not 600 months. We can cut that time in half and see if they are willing to work to show that they're not going to be a problem for the community anymore. And of course, we'll have a systems in place that if they are going to break that trust, we won't be tolerant about that.
Sorry, Mr. Ray, am I understanding correctly that you think an appropriate response from the justice system in exchange for misdemeanors and small crimes is to make them work at a small business? Is this for free? Is it at a reduced rate? How does the business volunteer to have these criminals come in and work with us? I have some questions about the specifics of this plan.
So I would like to see a program where the businesses could actually get a little monetary incentive from the state to hire criminals and give them better jobs. Obviously, we can't have people who are going to steal from the register working at business. The business owner certainly would certainly have some issues with that, given their past history. And again, it's not necessarily tailored for everyone. It's going to have to be dependent on. It's not going to be everyone goes through the same restrictions. Some of them are going to be tailored. Sometimes maybe a person already has a job when they're arrested. They wouldn't need to go out and seek a job again, but we could say maybe they have to do a certain level of community service. Maybe they need to do some volunteer work at one of the charities that's starting up. There are a number of solutions to this, and it's not just the ones I highlighted. There are plenty of other options. The requirement to seek work is just one of the ones that I feel strongly about, because I think a lot of people would not be involved in crime if they had stable jobs.
So, Mr. Ray, something that concerns me is that programs like this have been tried before, and the solution is that prisoners are exploited. Often the capitalist system realizes that this becomes a convenient source of cheap labor, and they go ahead and exploit that. So essentially, you are suggesting a potential introduction that could be abused to exploit vulnerable people who are trying to recover from a crime. I don't understand
I'm not suggesting that we have labor in prison. I'm suggesting that they get full wages at these jobs. It's not.
And then the business would get a benefit, yes. So that would encourage the business to.
Yes. Because some businesses won't hire just because, and I find that because you have a criminal past. A criminal charge on your record, that a business won't hire you to be discriminatory. Right now, if it's a relevant charge, I can see a problem. But if you're if you're a smoothie shop and you're not hiring someone because they got busted for marijuana possession, that's not that to me is not an excuse. They've done their time. They've given back to the community, and they're trying to start their lives over.
I appreciate your responses this evening. You can have a final weigh in, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Travis, just a quick thing. Have you personally seen any of this so-called discrimination where people have been refused to been hired by companies because of their criminal record?
We'll take your response briefly, please, Mr. Ray.
Not personally, no, but I know a lot. I've talked with a lot of criminals who have told me they can't get jobs because of some of the charges against them.
Thank you, and we'll be wrapping up that topic. I do apologise. We'll now be moving on to the final question of the night, which will be directed at candidate Kaori Prince. Candidate Prince, you've spoken about your Economy Enrichment Program, or EEP, which incentivizes business in Blaine County. What are your goals with this program, and how do you plan to enact it?
The goals of the program are to simply, as it states, try and get those places such as, or just places in Blaine County to be better economically stable. Right now, I feel like there is a big market for businesses that could open up there, but for one reason or another, there are no businesses that are opening there. As the United States did in the 1860s to get people to move out west, I would like to also give people perks and bonuses for moving up north and opening businesses. The implementation I would go through is working with DOCL as closely as I can to see what perks and bonuses could be given, are economically sound, and are things that can not only be given to businesses that move up north, but as the plan evolves and adapts, and as the future unravels, all businesses could be given perks and bonuses under this program. Right now, it's just focused on Blaine County, as I see that there's a lack of businesses up there just due to one reason or another.
Thank you for your response this evening. We'll now move into 3 minutes of group discussion on the topic if the other candidates would like to weigh in. All right, and any of the other candidates have any direct questions for candidate Prince? I'll take them now for 2 minutes.
So, Ms. Prince, I do have a question about this. What are some of the reasons you don't see business growth up there?
Some of the reasons why is just I just do not believe that people want to make businesses in those areas. Because if they did, they already would. I believe that while I do not know every reason, and nor do I claim to know every reason why people aren't doing it, my guess would just be that there is no reason to travel up north right now. While there are some businesses like the Blackwood Saloon up in Paleto, which I know is popular, it's the only, currently, until recently, the Yellow Jack reopened. Those are the two only businesses up north besides the motorcycle shop, where people want to buy a motorcycle, that get a lot of business and are popular spots in those areas. And I would like to see that those areas are more popular by more places opening up and being more social hotspots.
What about Harmony Repair?
Harmony Repair is it falls under the same category as I see as the motorcycle shop. Personally, I really haven't been up there much, but I wouldn't say that it isn't a spot for people to hang out with, but I feel like that is probably a very niche amount of people, probably workers of the place or friends of the workers.
There's also Boathouse. There's also
Boathouse falls under the same category as the motorcycle shop, where it's currently one of the only places to get a certain type of vehicle.
So I understand that there is a strong car culture in San Andreas, so those places do actually draw a lot of crowds who favor those types of vehicles and just like to talk engines and stuff. So they do go up there for things. Now, I think, have you considered solutions that would drive economy up there, because right now most of the reason why San Andreas gets the lion's share of the businesses is because there's an economy down here. There's people that'll spend money in San Andreas, and people aren't going up to those places.
You're referring to Los Santos, correct?
I'm sorry,
Getting
Los
it
Santos.
right.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
All right.
But there aren't people going up making the trek all the way up to Paleto unless there's events up there.
Mm-hmm.
So that needs to be something that you consider. How can we have more people going up there for things other than events? Don't you agree?
I agree, and that's the purpose of this program that I would like to enact. It is to give people a reason to open businesses up there and drive more people and more economy in those areas. What you're asking is exactly what the bill is described as trying to do. Get people to move north, open businesses, and get more people up there for more reasons.
Candidate Prince, if I may, have you, I guess this isn't so much a critique as a question, when it comes to this plan, I mean, housing would certainly be an important piece of the puzzle. People don't want to commute. People tend to work near where they live. How would you sort of look to change housing, or would the business bill kind of be meant to overcome that altogether with its perks and bonuses?
Given how currently the economy of those places are run, taking how Yellow Jack, Boathouse, Harmony Repair, etc., all do drive numbers of people up there, I would hope that the opening of more businesses and opening avenues of possibly more niche groups of socialites to go up there would drive people up there. On the topic of housing, I would like to see, as I mentioned earlier, a way for people to go about and own more private property in the state, whether that be an expansion of our realty systems, like Jacob said, of just wider availability to a real estate agent, or changes within DOCL in order for people to get land. It is a giant, as I would like to say, a can of worms opening for real estate. There are solutions to it. However, I don't have all the answers right now.
Thank you.
Can I ask this candidate Prince where you live currently? If you don't mind me asking.
Currently, I jumble my residency between living on the western side of Los Santos and sleeping in House of Chumash.
And you said you haven't spent any time up at Harmony Repair yourself personally? You haven't been up there?
Personally, I have not spent a lot of time in Blaine County. I have spent a little bit of time in Paleto, but I can't say that I make my presence known there.
So you haven't actually gone and talked to the current businesses operating in these places?
I have talked to some businesses.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
All right, and I will be closing out that topic, okay? And with that being the last question of the night, we at CNT actually have a general question for all the candidates, and I'll be taking your responses in order, starting with candidate Prince. And that general question is, all of you have stayed this evening, even through the threats of violence, and 2, security breaching attacks. Why do you think you've decided that this was worth risking your lives?
If the floor is open to me, I'll go ahead and answer.
Absolutely. We'll take your response now.
Personally, I don't mind getting shot at or threatened with violence if it means that I could stand here and continue wanting to help everyone in this state. I don't mind catching a bullet for someone so long as I can help out a few other people. It's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and that goes in the sense of, like I said earlier, I don't mind getting shot if it means I can help everyone.
Thank you for your response, Candidate Prince. And Candidate Malone, we'll take your response now, please.
Go along also with Kaori as well. Just being in politics in general, you're going to be dealing with either assassination attempts or even just threats on your life on a daily basis. It's something that you just have to deal with, and we're all here just with the common goal of just telling everyone what we're here to say, and just overall in general with that.
Absolutely, Mr. Malone. And as State Representative Incumbent Bex Lawson, we'll take your response now, please.
Thank you. I wish I had a noble answer. I wish I could say that I was just so sure of the purity of my message. But there were 2 factors, really. The first of which is that I have been working with Meriwether Security as a member of the government, and I have complete confidence in them as a security organization. I've definitely worked this job without professional security, and the difference is night and day. The second thing is, I do think that these debates are important, and I think my presence at them is important to a degree. I do think it is a shame that the other incumbent state reps weren't there. I think the process of democracy is incredibly important, and I think being present for these events, taking questions, even the hard ones or the embarrassing ones or the awkward ones, is fundamentally important to a flourishing democracy, and I felt I had to do my part in that.
I appreciate your response this evening, State Representative Lawson. Thank you very much. Right, we'll now take your response. Candidate Wheeler.
Quite frankly, because first off, I trust my staff here at Meriwether regarding the incidents that occurred during the debates, but as far as actually attending the debates and the importance of being here, it's the political process, and I feel as though I owe it to the people to explain why I feel as though they should vote for me. The same way that I stand up here and say that it's on them to attend the town halls, and it's on the citizens to use their voice, I have to use mine. So I would be remiss should I not be here and actually answer these questions and speak directly to the people. This is the platform for it, and that's why I'm here.
Absolutely. Thank you for your response, Candidate Wheeler. And we will now take the final response from Candidate Travis Ray.
Thank you, Nigel. So in case, for those of you who don't know my night trying to get here, I was attacked and viciously assaulted by a bunch of thugs on the way in. And I'm here through all the gunfire and the explosions and the attacks on my person because because I wanted to send a message that whatever you think that your violence is gonna do to dissuade people, it won't. What every candidate here tonight said is more powerful than any bullet or bomb or knife that you will threaten us with. And I would like to thank the wonderful people at Meriwether and all candidates who are sharing the stage with me for staying with it and sticking with it through all the interruptions and saving helicopter fuel for Meriwether.
Appreciate you looking out for our fuel, Mr. Ray.
We appreciate your responses this evening, all right? And we appreciate all units staying through the threats of security this evening. We thank you for that very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and before closing out tonight's debate, we will be allowing each campaign a 2-minute closing statement. We will be taking the first closing statement this evening of State Representative incumbent Bex Lawson's campaign. We will now take a 2-minute closing statement. Now, State Representative Lawson.
Thank you. I think the number one thing I want to get across to the public is not a political campaign or a message. It's just that I'm genuinely excited about a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about with the public, about presenting bills, even if they end up getting voted down or vetoed, about the process of working with the public. And I already know what I'm going to be able to tackle as soon as I'm back in office, presuming I am reelected. I think it's a fantastic job. I want to actually thank the public for allowing me to do this job by voting me in twice now, and I hope I can continue to serve. I know that with each Congress, I'm getting a stronger grasp on the position, and I ultimately hope I can continue to improve your lives with what I learned.
Absolutely, we appreciate your closing statement this evening, and we will now be taking the next closing statement from the campaign of Jacob Wheeler. We'll take your closing statement now, Candidate Wheeler.
I'm just going to be quite frank with you, Nigel, and directly to the people. I've said enough. I've come to the debates. I've answered the questions. I think that the people need to now really utilize their part in the political process. Do your research. Look into all the candidates. Please take the time to actually vote and use your vote wisely. I think that the candidates of all, at least the ones who've showed up to the debates, have done their best to communicate in their platforms and what they can do for you, and just please that take the time that we took to actually look into it and use your vote wisely. Thank you.
Absolutely. We appreciate your closing statement this evening. We'll now take the next closing statement from the campaign of Jordan Malone. We'll take your closing statement now, candidate Malone.
All right, thank you very much. I'm here today, along with other candidates, to help make changes, and that's what I'm here for as well. I'm here to help make realistic changes among the government and on different policies. After working here and being here for about 5 months, I've just heard different conversations and been to many events. And after hearing different people's concerns, I hope to be there for the people and hope to make change in this community.
Absolutely. Candidate Malone, we appreciate your closing statement this evening. We'll now take the next closing statement from candidate Travis Ray. Candidate Ray, we'll take your closing statement now.
Thank you. I just want to say to the people of San Andreas, there is going to, in the next 24 hours, you will be asked to make a very important decision that'll affect the next 4 months of this state. I hope you weigh in all that has been said and everything that has been written about every candidate these past 2 weeks, and even going further back. There have been a lot of good ideas stated on the stage, and quite frankly, I wish we had room for all of them in the legislature. And I hope that the best ideas get brought to the table. And if the candidates, if the candidates you like don't get elected, I hope you speak to the ones that do and push the ideas that you wanted to see get moved. I'd like to thank folks at CNT and Merriweather and the fine people doing our catering tonight for their hard work and dedication to making sure that that everyone's voice, ours and the community's, got heard. Thank you.
Sure thing, and that would be the little teapot. And we thank you for your closing statement here, Mr. Ray. All right, and we'll now take the last closing statement of the evening from candidate Kaori Prince. Candidate Prince, we'll take your closing statement now, please.
Thank you, Nigel. I'd just like to give a big thanks to everyone who's helped me along the way on this crazy 2-week adventure. CNT, other representatives discussing their platforms with me. The people who have come up to me and talked to me and discussed their ideas and my ideas. I also wanted to urge the citizens of San Andreas, echoing what Mr. Ray said, as that the next couple days are very important because they're going to dictate the next 4 months of how the government in our states ran. I implore you to do your research and actually vote for the people who you think are going to make change, not just the people who you know because they're popular. I would hope that the people that you would want actually in office would actually make good changes for the state, not just sit there and do.
Candidate Prince, we appreciate your closing statement this evening. I appreciate all the candidates in attendance, right, and I wish you the best on the rest of your campaigns here over the next 24 hours.
Thank you,
Ladies
Nigel.
and gentlemen, absolutely, that will conclude the CNT representative debates. The full video and highlights will be available on our website, cnt-sa.com, very shortly. You can also view a full platform agenda by all of the candidates on the CNT website currently. Once again, we want to have a huge thank you to the Little Teapot and Merriweather Security for their assistance with all the debates. Lastly, the second round of the CNT Politipoll is currently open. Be sure to voice your opinion online before official voting begins tomorrow. Thank you to everyone for coming out tonight and staying through the security issues, and thank you very much to Merriweather Security for dealing with that. And we please ask, as you leave tonight, please exit in a slow, orderly fashion for everyone's safety and for the ease of Merriweather getting everyone out of the building and home safely. From all of us at CNT, I am Nigel Worcestershire. I have been your moderator, and we thank you very much.